Hello, my name is Dr. Bea Lefkowitz, and I'm the director of the AJR Refugee Voices Archive of the Association of Jewish Refugees in the UK. I think it is wonderful to dedicate a day on which we celebrate the lives of all Holocaust survivors and we acknowledge their post-war efforts and achievements. This is, of course, a cause very close to the Association of Jewish Refugees, which was founded in 1941 to support the needs of the refugees and survivors, and which started to capture their testimonies in 2003. Today, the AGR still supports its members, but it is also the biggest funder of Holocaust education in Britain. The AGR recently celebrated its 80th birthday. In the film, which we're screening today, Voices for a Better World, 80 interviewees share their messages and reflections in a 60-minute film. Their voices encompass the wide range of survivors' experience pre- and post-World War II, and hopefully will inspire us to celebrate the lives of the interviewees, but also make us think about our responsibility as caretakers of their stories. Most interviewees made it very clear that looking back to the past has one clear aim: to make our future better. Today, I'd like to thank all Holocaust survivors who are able to tell their story, for their dedication and determination to educate the younger generation. Thank you to all the 270 interviewees who've shared their story with the Refugee Voices Archive. We're committed to keep your stories alive and disseminating the knowledge you have entrusted us. Thank you.
Jewish refugees from Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia fled to Britain before the outbreak of World War II to escape systematic persecution by the Nazi regime. By 1939, about 60,000 refugees managed to emigrate to the UK on domestic service visas, transit visas, as unaccompanied children on the Kindertransport, or through other forms of sponsorship. They were joined after 1945 by a small number of Jewish children and young adults who had survived the war in Nazi Europe, often without their family, in concentration camps, in hiding, or with false identities. Another wave of refugees, many of them Holocaust survivors, came to Britain from Hungary in 1956. Since 2002, the AJR Refugee Voices Archive has captured the testimony of more than 250 of these refugees and survivors. In these oral history interviews, the interviewees recall the stories of their families and their childhood homes in places like Berlin, Vienna, Prague, Krakow, Cologne, Frankfurt, Bamberg, Bratislava, Bonn, Budapest, Munich, Hamburg, and many more. They recall their life journeys and the many challenges they faced. They reflect on their often traumatic experiences of separation and displacement, and on their lives and achievements after the war. Some of the interviewees have been active Holocaust educators for many years. Some have never told their stories. Many interviewees who have given their testimony to the AJR Refugee Voices Archive are not alive anymore. This film captures the reflections, messages, and hopes of the refugees and survivors in the United Kingdom who wanted their words and voices to be heard, and who wanted future generations to reflect on the legacy of their testimonies.
My message would be: think of the past and don't let it become the future.
I'm not one to advise people. There are lots of wiser people about, but I think don't look back, just look forward and make the best of every day and be thankful of what you've got and be thankful to be there And let's hope it's going to be a better world and we won't be struck with any more dreadful things. It's a very different world we live in now. Very interesting to live for as long as you can to see what will happen.
Message I can think of is the whole reason why we have this interview is to let future generations know what kind of life we had, so that they should have a better life and should not have to suffer for all the traumas we had to suffer.
The message is that there should be a slightly better world, that we shouldn't have to tell stories like this ever again. That would be my message.
As time goes on, the memory of those days or the importance of it will dim with time, and this program will help it keep it in people's minds and hopefully let future generations have a better life. Should be a better world.
Well, it's very nice that you do all this. And I hope that somebody might have a look at it and see it and enjoy it. I think my family will enjoy it. That I'm not so sure. I got 2 children and 5 grandchildren, so maybe they like it. That I don't know.
People have got to know what it was all about, because once it's swept under the carpet, it will be forgotten.
And one of the reasons I don't ever think about it is because of this certain darkness that lies over it. That's why now I don't have to write my memoirs after all this, because that's why I refuse. The really personal things I don't think are fit for interviews or for books. Not, or other favorite books. You read very intimate things which I wouldn't be able to divulge.
Can't think of anything you have not, and I probably talk too much, which is not my way normally, but once you get me going on a subject, I talk about it, and I hope it's of some interest to you and whoever's going to see this one day.
It is good to talk about it, and I wish now, looking back, that I had done more talking, and mainly I had done more asking rather than talking, because maybe I would be able to say much more of all the things that happened to me, but I don't know.
Yes, it's hard to go back.
To speak about difficult things is the only way to get through. And to open up these things is the only way, really, to save generation after generation.
It's a fairly tough story.
You had a tough experience.
Yeah. But that's how it is. You can't change it.
No.
If one tries to be rational, I was burgled from an early age, if you like. First they stole my childhood, then they stole my possessions, then they murdered my parents. I mean, this must affect your whole being, your whole attitude, your whole everything.
The way I can explain it, perhaps, my happy family life was, interrupted, and I lost my parents and my sister. And I tried to work myself up to a sort of, a useful and a nice enough human being. And I found my own, family, and I managed to study. So I've got something that I can say I can be proud of. And I'm happy. I've got no regrets, really. I mean, all the things that happened to me perhaps during wartime and, being a refugee, I can only make Mr. Hitler responsible for it, nobody else, and that's how it is, and I had to come to terms with that. It's no good saying I resent it or in any way, because that's how it is.
my life, I found that there's been a lot of difficulty and hardship in my life and hard work and everything else. But I have learned from everything. And I think in the long run, it stood me in good stead. I really don't regret any periods of my life or feel hard done by or whatever. And that is the honest truth.
To say is really, you know, I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. I've got to be thankful that this country took me in. And although in the beginning it was hard going, I mean, now that I'm in my old age, I'm comfortable. I don't have any money worries. I would think the standard we have reached was the same standard we had when we left the country. And that's really a wonderful thing, and I'm very grateful for it, you know.
In a long time that I'm here, you have lots of experiences and memories, some good, some not so good, some not so good, but happy ones as well. And now I'm content.
I have my memories. I don't dwell on my memories too much, but sometimes it comes back to me all over again. Sometimes I sit on this comfortable chair and just think of all those things that I've been talking about. My dear parents, of course, never ever will I forget them. My sister, my lovely, lovely sister. But I have no chip on my shoulder. I don't feel anybody owes me anything. In fact, on the contrary, I feel very grateful to the many, many people. For instance, to my dear mother, what courage she must have had to sign that paper sending me away. You live a normal life, but you never ever forget. You cannot forget. And I wouldn't want to. Can I forgive? That's difficult too, but life must go on.
We should all live in peace and together, and that is the main thing.
Yeah.
I have always been the forgiving type, so that I can't alter. Whatever happened, I have always been. There have been good things and there have been bad things in life, but you must remember that you can't go through life hating people all the time.
Been lucky, very lucky. I mean, boys are not to be lucky about. It's giving me a good life. Maybe some of it I contributed to, I don't know. I hope I have. But otherwise I don't know. I mean, as long as people tolerate what I do, I'm only too happy to tolerate within reason what they do.
I like to think, I bring my kids up to be tolerant, to be understanding with any religion and to forgive. But it's very difficult. I can't forgive the Nazis what they did. I can't. Not with the best will in the world.
The strange thing is, somebody asked me, do you hate these people? It says the people who did perform all these atrocities are not alive anymore. Hardly anybody. They may be the odd ones still. And hate is not something that's good for you anyway. If you hate, you feel you hate yourself, you know, it eats you up. It's sad. And I said, they asked me that, do you think things will get better? I suppose if we educate the young people well enough, maybe it'll get better.
Well, I think part of me says you've got to get over the past. You've got to remember it so it doesn't happen again. But you've got to get on with your life. You've got to do things that help yourself, your family, and society. That's what I've always felt. It's not something I thought about rigidly. I didn't think about the fact that my parents died in the Holocaust. I think about what I can do to help.
Went to Vienna to put these stones down for my grandfather and my mother, Elsa and Leopold. And I thought I could move on, but time has shown me that I still have that stone in my shoe.
Loss of family is a big thing, you know, that you're never part of an extended family. And that, well, I mean, I suppose now I am part of an extended family going downwards to the younger generations, but in the sense of having lots of kith and kin around, that's all gone, which is a shame, and we're all sort of scattered, you know. I mean,
the experience of war, maybe it gave me lots of to accept many things that otherwise I wouldn't have accepted, to be grateful to things that maybe I wouldn't have picked as something to be grateful for. Maybe that yes, because to survive, that was the number one thing. Yeah. To find the family, the close family.
Yeah. I think perhaps it gave me the additional stimulus to make up for all that. The fact that we've had to run twice to first Holland, then to England, etc. It's given me sort of something to work and to achieve and say, right, okay, that's happened, right, now let's not cry over this. Yes, remember, yes, just be aware of all that, but get on with life. I've always believed in there's something else. Carry on, go on with your life, with what you want to achieve, and my refugee status has never inhibited me. I have no inferiority complex.
Well, one thing I would say is, you know, one's just got to be oneself. One is how one is, one has one's history, and there's not much you can do about it, and don't know that one needs to be ashamed of it either. And I think actually it's quite a good thing, I mean, from some points it's a bad thing to live long, which I'm beginning to do, or have, and but I think in some ways it sort of adds to one's perspective. I quite like now that I can sort of look back on all sorts of things, and don't know whether with any greater wisdom, but
I don't know. I consider myself to be a very lucky woman. I've seen, after a very troubled childhood, I've seen my parents again. My parents died here in my arms. I'm able, when I'm in London, to go to their graves. I married my husband here. I have my son here and my daughter-in-law, my grandchildren. I'm a very lucky woman, and I'm very old. I never thought I would go through all that, come to that ripe old age, and I can have to be grateful for, and I am grateful.
To be thankful for to the Almighty over the years. I sometimes wonder why was I spared and so many others not? And sometimes one has a guilt feeling about it. In spite of what I've been through, I still feel the Almighty has been good to me. Sort of in the outcome, I'm very lucky to have such a wonderful big family. Maybe that's why the Almighty spared me. I don't know, I've been married for 3 times and I've had 3 very good men.
I will say I'm one of the lucky ones that came over, who had a lot of things here from home. And although 7 years were not very happy, I was still lucky to have had them, because without them, I would be where everybody else was.
I'm happy that I'm a survivor. Millions got killed, so I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm the one who got away. That's all.
I can't make myself different. But it is so that there's some people, they won't probably not think about it at all. But no, I can't do that. But a religion, there's a God, and God will do, God help, be good to us, and we will be behaving dementsprechend. This is Dutch. So, don't you think the same?
I used to think when I was a youngster, why was I saved? And I still sometimes think there must have been a reason, but I haven't found out the reason yet. And I just try to be as helpful as I can. And I think I sometimes wonder whether I believe in God, but there must be something, and there must be some reason why I was saved and somebody else wasn't.
I'm very conscious that my, in inverted commas, success story, which is not untypical, has not been universally shared. And I'm very conscious that there are others who are less fortunate than I have been, and that really the distribution of life chances in this world is often a very random business.
I must say that I'm just thankful that I've been in this country. After all, I came here from nothing, and I did build up a home. I have got a family, my children, and so on. And I hope that the children will be also thankful and good citizens for the country, and they will benefit from their efforts.
I wanted to be more British than the British. You know, when somebody I traveled with on a bus spoke German, I must speak German. But that now I feel, even now, you see, I might have said this before, when I left school, I didn't have a trace of an accent when I left school in Yorkshire, but then I spoke German with my parents, and as I have said, the accent is always there. So whenever I speak after all these years, after all, I've come in 1936, and we meet some people, not that we meet many people now, we used to meet people, after 2 sentences, then they either say, you speak very good English, or where do you come from? But when I'm in Berlin, I speak German. Nobody says, you speak very good German. Where do you actually come from, you see? And this is a thing, well, I've come to live with it, but you never feel that you are really accepted as an English person. That is the way I feel. I don't feel bitter about it, don't get me wrong.
Look, I came very young. It makes a lot of difference. I feel absolutely at home here. And now there are so many foreigners here. You know, millions. Even in Barnes are some.
I mean, if you look back, you can say your roots are there, your roots are here.
but I do feel very British, really. Whatever, I really think. I mean, culturally speaking, while once German culture was closest to, it was obvious. Yeah? I think this is no longer the case. I identify myself far more with British history and far more with English culture and English literature. And all. I mean, it means far more to me than anything else, which is perhaps not so surprising because I did live all my life, almost all my life in this country, all my mature life. And also I had all my education in this country. I had no education whatsoever in Germany. It doesn't mean that I can't, when I'm in the mood, recite Italian or German poetry. It isn't quite like that.
Given the way it is now, that if everything were different and I had another 40 years to live or something, I wouldn't mind going back at all. But I mean, I think that's actually probably an illusion. But in the sense, you sort of feel certain sort of almost sort of Heimweh actually sometimes for that. There are certain things you always respond to, and I suppose different people respond to different things. If I'm in a wood, and especially if it's a pine wood, I think Berlin, I think home, you know.
To copy Lucian Freud, we're here because we're here because we're here.
Yes.
I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Meine Heimat is in my heart and my head.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have no deep sense of belonging.
I do feel very British. No, I was born in Germany. I couldn't live there anymore. I came to England. I was happily received here. I've been happy here. I've made a life here. My family is here. And the label I'm happy to have is British. I've often thought, why on earth didn't I change my first name? Because what's your name? Inge? Inge? All right, Inge. All right, Inge. Nobody ever spells it correctly. It doesn't matter. It's become a talking point, actually. So when I'm introduced to someone, at least we've got something to talk about, even if it is only my name.
I would say I never felt, as I told you before, as a refugee anywhere. I never felt anywhere as the main, let's say, the German, the Englishman, never of that. I always want to be regarded as a simple, normal human being, nothing else. And I would wish that if many more people would think like that, then the world would be better.
Yes, so multiple identity is one of my big themes. I belong to Deal, where I live now. I always had this sense of local belonging. I'm certainly a British subject. I'm a passionate European.
Well, I mean, jocularly, and I do this not infrequently when I have to introduce myself to people, I say that I'm an English gentleman with a German accent, or that I'm a Jewish English gentleman with a German accent, if it happens to be appropriate. And that's what I feel. I am totally identified with this country. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in any other country. I would be prepared to exert myself very considerably to benefit this country.
Britain has given me the most wonderful opportunities, and although I spend my time criticising conservative British governments, I think I've had enormous opportunities, and Britain is still a wonderful country, and I've been incredibly lucky, and I've had opportunities which I wouldn't have expected to get. Arriving as a little child, a little refugee child in London, at the beginning, just before the war, I would never have expected to have such opportunities. I think I see myself as British. Yeah, pretty largely British, but sometimes when I meet fellow refugees, I revert back to feeling a bit like them. And, you know, when I was driving along Holeczkowa in Prague, where we used to live, you know, I did have more than a twinge. So, you know, I can feel quite emotional about that, but on my day-to-day things, I feel British.
I'm convinced I'm multinational. I don't believe in patriotism only in my country, right or wrong. I feel myself, I've got a British passport, but I feel myself very close to Holland, the affinity, very close to Israel, and I've become reconciled to Germany too, because the Germany now is so different than it was 50, 60 years ago.
I can't say that I feel at all English, not at all. I feel a bit of everything. I feel a bit at home. I mean, I feel certainly at home in Israel in many ways, but I feel a bit at home in many areas in the world. But I don't feel totally at home anywhere. And if somebody says, what's your primary orientation, I would say Jewish. Jewish. My home is in being Jewish. I mean, I do feel at home in some ways in Germany. Very much so. I mean, it's not only language, but in other ways. I can easily sort of connect up with many people.
But I mean, I would no way ever have denied what I am, because that would be unthinkable after losing everybody.
I can't, again, you're stateless forever, because I mean, I have this loyalty to the British, but you don't really, I don't know where I belong. I still have this very strong affinity feeling with Germany, with Berlin, whether I like it or not. So.
The lesson to be learned is, lesson is very easy said. Yes, what I learned in Germany, I suppose there is a lesson to be learned. Yes, yes, there is a lesson to be learned. I mean, but what is the lesson? If we knew that things like this shouldn't happen, that never will happen again, then we said we had the lesson we learned has helped. But we don't know. The world is full of still not where bombs are flying all over the place. Is that so nice? It's a very difficult thing to answer.
Only basically that my experience has been fairly gentle, in the sense that I was very, very lucky through this very lucky Hungarian passport. My life has altered. It did change. And I want people to know that this change need never, ever have happened if people would have been more tolerant. Tolerance of other people. We may be Jews, we may be Muslims, we may be whatever, but it doesn't mean to say we haven't got the same feelings, the same wants, the same desires that other people have got. We want a house, we want food in our stomachs, all those things. And I hope that through this film, through this talk, they will think twice before they do anything like as the last Holocaust.
Please try and understand other people. Try and put yourself in their shoes. Don't quarrel about such very small things. And be tolerant. I don't think you can be tolerant all the time, because there is intolerance. But please try and tread on it
with trying to stand in their shoes. Because as I said before, from small fights and small quarrels become big fights and wars. And the only thing we have to do is to prevent wars.
Look, do you mean a message to the people?
Yes.
Never forget your identity. Stronger than anything else, more so to people. Be proud what you are doing and be honest. Be proud of their identity. You know, I remember Einstein was interviewed once in Germany. Hitler was already in power. So the interviewer asked him, "Are you a Jew?" He knew he's a Jew. Yes, he said, "Yes, and I'm proud of it." He said, "If I weren't proud of it, I would be a Jew just the same. So I might as well be proud of it."
Be yourself and know where you come from. You have to know and to ask, where do I come from? Who am I? And I don't know whether they will follow that, but that is what I would like people to know, because I know where I come from, and I'm lucky that I can remember.
I'm not good at messages. Well, all I can ask people to learn from history, and show more humanity. Because what's going on now, that those desperate children dying every day, trying to escape, and nobody wants them. And this what we were unwanted by the whole world, and it's happening again. And I wish they had learned something from history, but they haven't.
1, don't make victims of others. And 2, don't be a victim yourself. Get out of the victim business. So the answer is, if you take measures to deal with the dangers before they are impossible to deal with, then perhaps help will come for you.
Some unpleasant things can happen to you, but how you deal with them is in your hands. How you deal with what is given to you, which may be beyond your control. How you deal with it is entirely up to you. And it's your life, is your responsibility. That's what I would tell my kids. That's what I would tell my grandchildren. You can't have everything you want. Doesn't mean to say you can't dream. But accept reality courageously. Don't recoil. Don't step back. Say yes to life.
Have to learn to accept people as they are and respect the individual, not try to change them or treat them in a particular way because that's their station in life. It doesn't work like that. Everybody's an individual. And it doesn't matter whether they actually agree with you on something or not. You have to interact and treat them as human beings. I think that's the basic building block of society. If you don't do that, then eventually you run into the sort of trouble that we did.
Well, it's always said we don't learn from history. I hope I've learned something from my own history, and I hope my children and grandchildren. I'm very proud, you know. Whatever I've achieved, the greatest achievement is always to keep your family together and inspire them, you know. Without, much, I'm trying hard, but I've managed to do that. They're following very much in liberal Jewish footsteps and teaching and practicing, which is very rare, even among the rabbinate nowadays. So my famous passages is the last passage in our Bible. The prophet Malachi says, the last sentence in our Bible says, Elijah will come and he will turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the hearts of the children to their parents. So very often, even conducting funerals, I quoted that. If you do nothing else to cause Elijah to come or bring the messianic age nearer, you keep the family together.
I hope that some people will learn of it. You can't wait for miracles to happen by itself. You must help the miracles with your behavior, with your saying, with your talking, to get realized. But wait, you can have a prayer book in your hand and talk to God, help. You must help something to get the help.
Do I have a message? I'm not very much given to large-scale moral messages. There are two things which I keep on transmitting to my children, one of which is from my father-in-law, in whose Bar Mitzvah book was inscribed the word, "Depart from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it." That's something that I transmit to. It's from Psalms, Sur Merah ve'asetov, Chapes Shalom, Bakesh Shalom Berotfechu. And the other one is from Micah. What does the Lord your God require of you but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God?
I've been dishing out a little poem which I've got upstairs. I don't know where I found it, which says, I cannot change the way I am. I need not even try. We each are different and unique. No need to question why. If I appear peculiar, there's nothing I can do. So please accept me as I am, as I'm accepting you. There. I think that's as good as anything.
Try to learn from your own mistakes and admit it. It's not easy. Admit it and try to learn from it and try to be a better person. That's what I consider myself, a helpful, a better person, share with your life with people who are not so fortunate as you are.
One has so often heard, let it never happen again. But it does. It keeps happening again, wherever it is, all over the world. And so I suppose it ought to be talked about. But even with all the talking that one does, it does happen again. I think human nature must be pretty awful to let these things happen all the time. At the moment we have a refugee situation coming from the Middle East, Syria and so on, and I think people's reactions have been less than warm and wholehearted. I think we could afford to be more accepting, and perhaps that is my own view, or perhaps it's because of my own experience. Not quite sure which, but I just wish we could be more receptive to other people who have trauma and need us.
I hadn't thought about it until this moment, because I'm not really a messenger, but I would say that when all is said and done, Goethe said it very well. And far be it from thinking myself as wise. I'm certainly not wise. But Goethe said, to a wise man, all ports are havens. And I think I agree with that. Even if one isn't wise, one may look at life in that way. And perhaps that's the best way to survive the vicissitudes, which undoubtedly every life has. And I think it's wonderful to be alive, whether you're an émigré or not an émigré.
In other words, live your life so that you can look back and say, I've done the right thing. It's even if it means swimming against the stream. It may be difficult, but it's worth it. Mm-hmm. And I can say, well, it's tough. Don't think it's not tough. I wish him luck. I wish him strength.
Be yourself, be honest, and do with your life the best what you can.
I still give that message out that please don't hate. Try not to repeat the mistakes of previous people, because killing people doesn't solve problems. That's about it.
Only to try to think of other people as individuals and not to think of people en masse, not to stereotype, because there is such a thing as mob mentality, and it can lead to dreadful things. And
not to generalize. Everyone's experience is different. Not even to talk about the Germans. There are lots of different Germans. And today's generation is totally different to the generation of the Nazi period. And they're much better. It's a much nicer generation than 2 or 3 generations ago. But not to generalize, not to make generalizations about people, either Jews, Germans, or anybody else. That's it.
The Holocaust has to be put in the context of genocide. Education needs to go in the direction of embracing the whole of the issue of genocide. The Holocaust is unique, but that doesn't mean it'll remain unique. It is the worst example of the most industrialized, horrendous genocide to wipe out whole peoples in the plural, the Roma as well as the Jews. And hopefully it will remain unique, but we have to see it in the context of the genocides that preceded it and the genocides that have been allowed to happen since.
Unless you were a refugee, there was really no point to imagining what it must have felt like to be one. All I can say is refugees need understanding, and there are plenty of refugees in the world today who need understanding, help, and it's no good pretending it doesn't happen and looking the other way. Somebody needs to help, and we all need to put our hands in our pockets. And certainly my generation would be well advised not to pretend that we weren't the lucky ones, and why should we pull out the plug just because we're here and the devil take the hindmost. So my message is, for God's sake, help other people.
Hope that the future will be better than it is at present, and I hope the type of life we're living now will improve and not get worse, because it is a terrible, terrible worry how things are at the moment.
The only message, and it's almost self-evident from what I said, that the world has done many a bad thing, and it's about time that they learn from it.
I think one has to be tolerant, one has to be educated, one has to know, one has to educate oneself to know what happened. I like to think that if I had been older and not Jewish at the time, I would like to think that I would have done the right thing and been courageous and stood up.
Try to help people. People are in need. Try to give some time, give some effort, give some love to the community, to the people. They desperately need it. And you never know, you may need it as well sometime, so you better give it now whilst you can. If nothing else. I mean, that is my attitude to life.
I think perhaps the main thing is that material goods, however wonderful, are not really important, and that what really truly matters is the family and friends, other people, and that is what matters. Nothing else really matters, and that's something I try to live up to, and blessed with a wonderful family. Yes.
I think the point is that never to give up hope is the important thing. To be very aware of other people's suffering and tragedies and to be helpful. And the importance of friends and community, and to make something out of every opportunity that comes your way, to invest it with hope and helpfulness.
Answer your question. I'm not a nationalist. I really believe that the world is in such difficulties because each one is too much a nationalist and does not think of the other person as a simple human being. And since you asked me, I would say, in a way, I would like to be remembered in my life, not necessarily someone who helped the establishment of Israel. I did help a little bit, but I want to be remembered as a person who has respect for anybody else who is a good human being. And I would wish that the world, when I'm gone, should go in this direction.
What happened to me, it happened to thousands of us. Millions have been murdered. Of the thousands, hundreds are talking about it like I do. Good luck. Tell the world as much as possible. By telling, we won't forget those that have gone, and hopefully it won't happen again.
Well, I wish anti-Semitism was over and people learned from what has happened in the Holocaust, etc. I hope it never reoccurs.
This Holocaust experience, we haven't learned anything. And I think that this is the message I would like to send, that one should learn that you don't achieve anything by killing people. And the Holocaust was a sort of most unique thing that's ever happened, actually. This technological, planned murder of a group of people. You should have a right as a citizen. I mean, the fact that the Jews were citizens of these countries that killed them, they killed their own citizens, is unbelievable.
I suppose take an active part in political life and democracy is worth preserving. True democracy. So.
I don't believe in words only. When you hear people at the moment, for instance, so often words, so many words, instead of actions. And I think you should act. And you should act how you feel, without trying to hurt other people. That's the main thing too. Whatever you do, try not to hurt other people. Not physically and not mentally.
I would say, be very careful of any prejudice. Always treat everybody, of whatever their color, their culture, their faith, whatever, however different of somebody else is, if they're different from you, they are still a human being. You have just learn what happened in Hitler's Germany. Please, please learn from that. Just don't even begin to think of anybody else as the other.
I have often thought what would have happened to me in Vienna, and I never liked that prospect.
No?
No.
Why? What do you think would have happened?
Oh, but I have no idea which way it is, but I don't know what kind of job I would have ever got and so on. I'm afraid I fell on my feet, and that is one of the reasons. And I've been so extraordinarily lucky. And that is one of the reasons why, if anything, I suffer from the guilt of the survivor. All the luck in my family, my parents didn't, and nor had my sister. Right? I was the lucky one. Let's hope it continues.
I probably would have been an engineer, well, what you call draftsman here in Germany, and would have earned quite a lot of money, I would say, you know. And here I had a bit of a struggle to earn some money and to do my living. But I'm not complaining, don't misunderstand, I'm certainly not complaining. But it would have been easier, let's put it that way, you know. I mean, now I'm retired and everything seems to be beautiful, but it was not always beautiful and easy to live, you know. But I don't mind, somehow I got through very well, you know, I can't really complain. And I'm not the one who has got to have everything.
I would have become a good German, I suppose. When I was a little child, I hated Berlin. I wanted to be an der Ostsee, but I think I would just have become a good German. I would not have become a dentist. I would have become a journalist or something like that.
It would have been lovely, I'm sure. I don't know how. Maybe I would have gone to England to study if I had been a good pupil at school. If my father had considered that I had all the wonderful, 555 or very good, maybe. Maybe not. Or maybe we would have landed in Palestine. I don't know, but it would have been a very happy life, no doubt. No doubt. Because we were a very happy family. I had a wonderful mother, a wonderful father whom I worshipped, adored. Mother who was very successful, loved doing what she was doing. I had a beautiful, lovely brother. I mean, what could be bad? What could be bad? And the city I loved to live in, what could be bad?
Well, I think my message would be when you have difficulties, keep it in context and remember that people like ourselves were in much greater difficulties in considerably recent past.
As much as I can leave behind me, definitely my hope that people learn to live with each other. If I look down from somewhere and see what's going on after my time has come, then I'll watch out and see how much of that has improved. But it'll take generations. It will take generations. I have no illusions about that.
For the future, listen to what the likes of us have had to say, draw your own conclusions, but remember that this is not just a project about telling the stories of unhappiness and loss, but they should also be stories about gains and about the lessons that have been learned that can be applied for a future which will create more stable, better lives and bring people together rather than separate them.